In the year 2041, due to growing social and economic inequality, there has been a rise in violent crimes, and due to this, the government has allowed all citizens the right to be revived in case of an unnatural death. Detective Emma gets a lead and she goes to the location. Her team tells her that they only have one lead, and it is the name Florence. They search the building using scanning drones, but they find nothing. And just then, she hears a gunshot as a man kills someone inside the building. She rushes in and her team tries to stop her. She starts going up and finds a man trying to escape after committing a murder. He tells her that even with a restore point, she is scared, and she tries to stop him by surrendering. But he gives her two choices: either she let him go, or he will kill himself. He eventually decides to take his own life and jumps from the top of the building. Later, Emma goes to her home where she plays piano and listens to her boyfriend's old message. She then gets ready for work and leaves. On her car radio, it's revealed that the recent attack was by the same terrorist group, River of Life, which had previously attacked a bus. And the director of the Restoration Institute, Carol Rohan, is holding a conference about the privatization of their company. Emma goes to her office where she meets her boss. He reprimands her for not following direct orders to not enter the building. She tells him that even if she had waited for 10 negotiators, it wouldn't have changed anything, as the terrorist waited for 2 days until the restoration point was over and then killed them. She says that he jumped and it was his choice, but her superior tells her that now the case has been taken out by Europol and they're making sure that she wasn't involved in it because of her personal issue. He then asks her about Peter, how long it's been since he died, and she asks if he thinks she is being personal with this case. He says no one is judging her, and then tells her that he has another case for her and she will be perfect for it. This time they have no tip, and this case could bring her closer to the terrorist group. He questions if she is ready to work as a team player, and she says, yes, she can handle it. Later, Emma arrives at the crime scene where the researcher of Restoration Point and his wife have been murdered. Both of them had no valid restoration point, which Emma finds shocking. She confirms it again and finds that they were both insured, but had no restoration point. She declares this case as absolute murder, and the news of this murder spreads everywhere. Rohan holds a press conference where he states that if their company is privatized, it will benefit people, and they can choose which package suits them best. Emma tries to question him, but he refuses, and instead asks her to question Dr. Ledgerova, who used to work with David, the researcher who was murdered in the recent case. Emma questions if Ledgerova noticed anything suspicious, and she answers no, and instead takes Emma to witness a boy being restored to life. Ledgerova then shows her sad parents who are crying because their daughter was unable to be restored as she didn't back up regularly. Ledgerova mentions that this is what David had in mind. He wanted real-time backups. Emma questions her why David didn't have a backup, and she answers that he had one, but it was hacked and erased. However, his wife wasn't interested in the technology, and she didn't back it up for the past 4 months. Emma later goes through the dead couple's files and finds a suspect, Toffer, who was previously accused of being involved with the terrorist group but freed due to lack of evidence. She finds the same necklace on him as the one she found on the murder site. On the basis of this evidence, she gets his arrest warrants. However, just as she is about to leave, David comes from behind and this shocks her. She asks him how he is alive and he must go with her to the station, but he tells her that he can't, as Rohan won't risk the privatization and will do anything to make sure it happens. He tells her that he needs something from his house, and continues to explain that he has been restored to an old backup from 6 months ago, and it's not perfect, and he won't survive for long due to the side effects. Also, he has a 6-month memory gap and doesn't remember what he did for the past 6 months. Emma takes him to Toffer's house and locks him in the car. However, when David finds out that this is the same man who killed his wife, he manages to escape, and this disrupts her operation, allowing the suspect to escape. David then leaves as more officers reach the scene, but before leaving, he tells Emma to meet him alone just down the road after 1 hour. The Europol officer named Mansfield arrives at the scene, and he meets Emma. He finds her impressive as she found the suspect faster than him, but he wants her to kill Toffer if she ever finds him again because he is a dangerous man. Emma meets David, and he tells her that there are 3 digital keys to access the system. One of them is with him, one with Rohan, and the third one is in a safe. He asks her to take him to his house and claims that all the answers are there. She takes him there, and they learn that David's backup was destroyed by a virus that is now attacking random restore backups and destroying them, leaving plenty of people without a valid restore point. He also finds some old videos and an injection from his house, but they're forced to run because Europol gets there. Later, David tells Emma that those who are restored from a backup longer than 48 hours can't survive without these injections. He then starts seeing his past videos and gets interrupted by Emma. She shows him a recent image where David's wife is cheating on him. David feels sad and asks Emma when will the sadness in his heart disappear. She says that she will let him know when she experiences it. Questions now arise about Emma's past and what has she gone through that warrants this response. Emma then goes to meet Mansfield and Rohan and finds out that Rohan restored David from an old backup just like David said. They try to convince her that this was done to help save people, since David knows the system best and thus giving them the best chance to fight the hacker Toffer, but she believes they are doing it for selfish reasons, such as protecting the privatization of their institute. Afterwards, as Emma is busy talking to David, Agent Mansfield arrives at her house and asks her where David is. She tries to be clueless, but he then starts talking some nasty stuff about David's wife, and this irritates David and he rushes out to attack Mansfield. The agent manages to catch him and then threatens Emma that if she tries to stop him, he will shoot her, and since she hasn't backed up for the past 28 hours, she will wake up with no memory of the previous day. Emma plays her late husband's recording, which distracts Mansfield, and she grabs his gun. With the help of David, she manages to overpower him and eventually shoots Mansfield. The duo then escapes in Emma's private vintage car while she uses her police car as a decoy. She tells him that they must stop Rohan before he finds Toffer, as they want to hide the virus at all costs. Later, Emma and David go to a shady place where they ask a tech merchant to give them a scanner and an untraceable phone. After getting it, they start searching for Toffer, and they use the scanner that they got from the merchant to discover the location of a house that Toffer was recently photographed at. They also discover that the woman in the picture is his aunt. They go to Toffer's aunt's house and start asking her questions, but she knows that they are wanted, and Emma questions if she will turn them in. However, the lady replies that they don't have a telephone or internet, and that this makes them free. Emma then questions her about Toffer, and she replies that he left 2 years ago as he was unable to find a place where he fit. Emma asks her about the terrorist group, River of Life, and she replies that maybe there's no such group, and it's all part of Rohan's lies. They decide to rest there, and David plays the piano and tells Emma that they started a new experimental program where they can introduce new skills and abilities using restore points, and this is the first time he is playing the piano. He says they didn't reveal it to the public because it's dangerous. He jokes that at least it works. At night, Emma finds something strange and she decides to stay in the car. Since Emma hasn't backed up, she feels a bit strange, and David comments that she is feeling what it feels to be immortal, with that primal fear of ceasing to exist. She says she knows why his wife chose not to be backed up, and this news surprises him, since he didn't know this. He then finds Emma's husband's backup in the glove compartment and asks about him. She reveals that the terrorist group River of Life took 50 people hostage, out of which her husband is one of. She then explains that the group killed a hostage every hour, and her husband was the last to be killed, leaving him with no restore point, as all restore points need to be backed up within 48 hours of the death. The government didn't reveal this news to the public because it will hurt the reputation of the newly introduced restore point system. While they wait in the car and talk, parked in the woods, they spot a car leaves the town. Emma says that she was sure the aunt was lying because she said she hadn't seen Toffer for years, but the photo was only 1 month old and it was taken at this place. They follow the aunt into a hidden room and ask her about Toffer, but she refuses to comply and says that she doesn't trust them. However, she decides to let Emma speak to Toffer. Emma starts looking for Toffer and finds him. She tries arresting him, but he says he is innocent, and it's actually Rohan who is the founder of the River of Life, and they profit due to the terrorist attacks, creating mass imminent fear of death, and thus prompting people to do more backups and ensure their lives, which profits the company greatly. He gave the evidence to David's wife, and as a result, she was killed because of it. On the other hand, David is not feeling well, so the aunt offers him water, but she then takes him hostage and asks Emma to release her nephew, otherwise she will kill David. Emma releases Toffer, but a chase ensues once she sees he wants to run away. He jumps and falls in front of the car, and as a result gets badly injured. Emma decides this is her only chance and starts backing up his consciousness to the restore system. She manages to complete it just before he dies, and David rushes to find some material that may block the signals so that the backup doesn't alert Rohan about their location. Since they must restore Toffer, they think about where to take him, as the restoration facility is very dangerous. David takes him to the place where he used to go to the university and uses the prototype machine that started this whole restore point thing, and there they start the restoration process. Emma tells David about what Toffer told her in the church. David says that if it's true, then he's better off not knowing it, because there is no denying they greatly benefited from the terrorist attacks, and it served as their marketing since they managed to restore everyone killed by the group. While they restore Toffer, Emma asks David if he knows about Rohan, and he says that if he knew about this, he would have never helped him because his job is about saving lives, and he wouldn't be able to live knowing what Rohan did. He says that him saving the man who killed his wife is proof of him not being guilty. They successfully manage to restore Toffer, and Emma asks David to back himself up and create a new restore point, otherwise he will once again lose all his memories. The Institute detects some unusual activity around the university and informs Rohan about it. He tells them that it's nothing to be worried about, and then informs his men that he knows where David is hiding. Meanwhile, David completes his backup and asks Emma to do hers as well. Toffer gets conscious and asks why they restored him. They tell him that they need him to prove Rohan is guilty, and he says that it's not the virus which he injected in the system, but what he took out. He found encrypted crypto transactions of Rohan to the River of Life for every terrorist attack, implicating Rohan as the main terrorist. He shared these files to David's wife, who was supposed to show them to David, so when he gives it to the police, it's more believable when it comes from a very important man in Rohan's company. Toffer then reveals how she was killed. He says that David killed her, and he wanted to restore her to 6 months earlier, before she met Toffer, because David was jealous and felt she was slipping for another man. However, when Toffer got to the crime scene, she didn't want to be restored, so he destroyed her backup to honor her final request. Emma also believes that this is true, since David had those injections at his home, and they were initially meant for his wife to cope with the 6-month gap side effects. Emma starts backing up, and just then Agent Mansfield arrives. David and Emma find out that Mansfield is just Rohan's errand boy, and he was maintaining the status quo that Rohan envisioned. Mansfield kills them all thinking they don't have a restore point, and then he gives the safes code to Rohan. However, Emma, just before he died, called her superior and informed him about the plot. Her superior went to David's house, and just as Rohan opens the safe, he arrests him. Luckily, Emma has backed up before she was shot and is therefore restored. Rohan and Mansfield are arrested, whereas the government decides to let David go, since they want someone they can trust as the head of the new Restore Point Institute. David continues to live with that 6-month gap of memory, slightly relieving the pain of his decision to kill his wife. Since he does not remember anything within those 6 months, the law gives him the benefit of the doubt and declares him not guilty. Emma gives him the dead restore point from his wife to keep him reminded about the horrible choice he made before he was restored. That's all for today, guys. Check these videos and binge on some recap nest sci-fi goodness. See you next time.